don't need to look at places like the digital sales tax that can inflame differences between our country. We need to think about places where we can work together. So we need to be prepared so that we can actually do the things that are going to recognize our mutual interests and move forward rapidly.
That, of course, was former Finance Minister Bill Morneau being interviewed on Question Period with Vasi Capellas last December. This was following the financial statement, which was the last financial statement we've gotten from this Liberal government. But Bill Morneau was saying, don't go through with this digital services tax. We have an HST, we have a GST, now we have a DST. This is David Krayden broadcasting live from Ottawa. I'll be back momentarily with a little more information.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
We need political change. But we also need to resolve to resist.
Yes, please subscribe to the station if you haven't. If you need to resubscribe, I beg you, please do. No. Near the end of the month, thank you so much for your support this month. We're going to continue to move upwards in July, and we will be broadcasting just about every day we can as we continue to expose what's going on in Ottawa. Yes, the House of Commons isn't sitting, but that's really sometimes when the real work goes on, or the bad work goes on. Before I forget, I want y'all to watch Jason Levine's show today. It's the Jason Levine Show. He's broadcasting live from Ottawa. He's in town to cover some stories, and he's going to be at the Days Inn at Wyndham. It's on Rideau Street. And the show today is from 1 to 3. I'll be on at 2. And my good friend Linda Robinson, Councillor Linda Robinson from Pickering, will be on at 1 o'clock to talk about her latest problems with the city and the mayor. And hopefully Linda will be joining us during the next half hour as well. But if she can't make it, watch her this afternoon. That's the Jason Levine Show. And you can always count on Jason to put out quality programming. And he's been running across the country over the last month or so, talking to people across this nation and doing stories of interest to viewers like you. So please have a look at it. So what's this digital services tax? Well, let's start off on a humorous note. Carney is the crisis. This is snake oil salesman. This is what is wrong with this country. And of course, we showed you Donald Trump the other day. Here. Remember
that was Prime Minister Carney towards you.
Very good.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been nicer. We enjoyed the Canada stay a lot. And I had to come back, obviously, for what's happening in the Middle East, but I got everything done. He's a good man. I think Carney's a good man. Very well, a good representative of Canada.
You think he's liked by the people?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So what's this digital services tax all about? Well, let's hear it from Donald Trump. He just put this post on Truth Social last night. We have just been informed that Canada, a very difficult country to trade with, including the fact that they have charged our farmers as much as 400% tariffs for years on dairy products, let's get back to Canada, has just announced that they are putting a digital services tax on our American technology companies, which is a direct and blatant attack on our country. So the honeymoon's over, I think, with Mark Carney, because Carney's not moving on this. And the finance minister, Champagne, has said we're not even considering removing or not imposing the digital services tax. They are obviously copying the European Union, which has done the same thing and is currently under discussion with us. Also, based on this egregious tax, we are hereby terminating all discussions on trade with Canada, effective immediately. We will let Canada know that tariff that what tariff they will be paying to do business with the United States. So that's where we stand today. And does Mark Carney seem the least bit concerned? And the first payment is due Monday, and it's retroactive to 2022. So that's what, 3.5. Yes, it's literally like, it's 2.5 years. 22, 23, 24. No, it's 3.5 years of payments are going to be due. It's billions of dollars. And they expect them to pay up on Monday. This is extortion, people. This is what this is, extortion. And of course, as you just saw, Bill Morneau actually said, don't do it, last December. And you know why Morneau left the Trudeau cabinet? He just couldn't stand it anymore. Backing up Trudeau's scandal, backing up Trudeau's overspending. He just couldn't stand it anymore, and he left. So that's what the digital services tax is. And let's hear what Carney is actually saying about it, because it's absolutely incredible.
Spoken to the president today yet, sir?
No, I didn't speak to the president today.
What do you? Any reaction to the news they put on Truth Social today?
We'll continue to conduct these complex negotiations in the best interest of Canadians. It's a negotiation. Ça va continuer.
Will you back down from the DST? Can you just say that in French?
Je viens de le dire. Il y a des négociations complexes. On va les continuer dans les mieux intérêts des Canadiens et Canadiennes.
Merci.
Yeah, hey, no problem with Mark Carney. He's got this under control, apparently. No, he doesn't. This is the worst posturing I've seen from Carney. Well, since last week. No, the posturing that went on at the G7, for instance, incredible. Even Doug Ford is saying, "Hey guys, let's not go forward."
The federal government to pause the implementation of the digital services tax. The DST is a bipartisan consensus in Washington. They are absolutely furious at us. I talk to Democrats, I talk to Republicans, and they are furious. They're furious with Canada over even considering what they view as an unfair tax on American companies. Putting aside the fact that they'll never support bringing in a new tax, no matter what it is, we cannot put millions of Canadian jobs in our historic economic partnership with the U.S. at risk because of a stubborn refusal to listen to the concerns of our American friends. The federal government needs to pause the implementation of the digital services tax.
Terminate, not pause. I think a lot of people out there on X, on YouTube, are saying the same thing. No, pause. Pause is better than implementing it on Monday, but terminate it, destroy it. This is extortion. I'll say it again. And let's hear what Donald Trump has to say about it.
I put a charge on some of our companies, and Canada's been a very difficult country to deal with over the years. We hear Canada, we have a great relationship with the people of Canada, but it's been very difficult. And they put a charge, and they were a little bit early, we found out about it. So, and we have all the cards. We have every single one. We don't want to do anything bad, but they have, economically, we have such power over Canada. I'd rather not use it, but they did something with our tech companies today trying to copy Europe. They copied Europe. It's not going to work out well for Europe either, and it's not going to work out well for Canada. They were foolish to do it. So I said we're going to stop all negotiations with Canada right now until they straighten out their act. Okay?
Is there anything Canada can do to change your mind about this situation?
Well, no, they put a tax on companies that were American companies that they shouldn't have, very severe tax. And, I guess they could remove it. They will, but it doesn't matter to me. We have all the cards. We do a lot of business with Canada, but relatively little. They do most of their businesses with us. And when you have that circumstance, you treat people better. They've had.
Now, if you were watching the show this week, You probably saw the interview that I did with retired Colonel Douglas McGregor, one of the best, probably the best military analyst out there. And he explained how Mark Carney and Donald Trump, despite all of the niceties and the obsequiousness from Mark Carney towards Donald Trump, they are headed for a collision course. They're on a collision course because if Mark Carney buys European fighter aircraft and European military equipment, Donald Trump is going to go through the roof. Because military equipment is one of the last things the United States produces in abundance. You look at the labels in your clothes, you look at the labels in your cups, you look at the labels anywhere, and they're made in China. The United States is doing very little of its own production of basic essentials. Agriculture, yes. The American agriculture scene is still strong, but this is what McGregor pointed out. So Carney is going to just infuriate Trump if he buys these fighter jets from Sweden or France and does not stick to the original agreement with the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. And the digital service tax is going to further inflame the problem. This is exactly what Bill Morneau said. Let's go hear the rest of that interview from December with Vasi Capellas.
On things like border security and defense spending, but also when thinking about ways that we can ensure that that relationship will be strong. We don't need to look at places like the digital sales tax that can inflame differences between our country. We need to think about places where we can work together. So we need to be prepared so that we can actually do the things that are going to recognize our mutual interests and move forward rapidly.
Would you be taking the DST off the table and digital sales tax for everyone watching off the table as sort of a sign of goodwill in the negotiations around all this?
I think we need to look at the places where we are able to respond to really important challenges that have been identified, things that we understand. With the digital sales tax, I don't see why that's an issue that we need to be focused on now. It will certainly create tensions, and it's not something that we've got an agreement with on the United States yet, so it's unilateral from a Canadian standpoint. So yes, I would move away from that and think about the other places that we have a mutual interest in moving forward. And do that in a way that's calm and that recognizes that we need to have an enduring ability to work together.
Do you think does that mean you would not advise at this point threatening, cutting off energy, imposing significant counter tariffs, or even export tariffs on things like uranium and potash?
I'd be very careful. I would be very careful in thinking about that.
Well, that's something Justin Trudeau never was careful. And Mark Carney is increasingly not being careful. So what's the potential effect, the potential consequence of a digital services tax or a digital sales tax coming into effect on Monday? Well, the Americans are going to refuse to pay it. So what does that mean? That we're no longer going to be getting the same internet services? Will YouTube be functioning on Monday? Will X be functioning? How about Facebook and other Meta, Instagram? All of these are subject to this tax. Now, what does that mean? It means the Liberal government is again censoring what we can see, hear, and view on the internet. This is part of their censorship program that has essentially made the internet more and more difficult to access and made it harder for tech companies to operate within the Canadian border. And that means less news. You can't read the news on Facebook anymore because Facebook said, forget it, we're not complying. Now, what if Google says the same thing about this digital services tax on Monday? Does that mean Google won't operate in Canada? Will you see the show on Monday? I certainly hope so. Well, at least we'll be on Rumble. But these are the potential consequences of this reckless decision, especially right now. And by the way, before I forget, here's some of the example of the merch we'll be handing out this afternoon on the Jason Levine show when we're there. And wanted to show you this one. Forget it. We just got this, literally came to my front door 5 minutes before the show. I know a lot of you are dying to get your conspiracy theorist knower. Yes. So we'll be showing a bit of that later. But that's where we are with this digital sales tax or services tax. It's another form of censorship. You bet. Let's hear some more concern about this.
Well, we knew it was coming. We hoped they wouldn't do it. Canada has this digital services tax, and several other countries do too. We disagree, and we think that they discriminate against U.S. companies. But what Canada did here, as of Monday, they're going to implement a retroactive tax. And we think that we don't like the taxes, and obviously we think it's patently unfair to do it retroactive. This was something from the Trudeau years, so we were hoping as a sign of goodwill that the new Carney administration would at least put a break on that during the trade talks. They seem not to have. President Trump has responded, and my inclination is that Ambassador Greer over at U.S. will be starting a 301 investigation into the digital services taxes to determine the amount of harm to the U.S. companies and the U.S. economy in general.
Why is a Section 301 investigation the way to go, and what could that outcome potentially yield? Would that be broad-based, looking at Canada and the possibility of tariffs, or very targeted on certain industries?
Well, no, the president can impose tariffs based on IEPA, which is an Emergency Economic Powers Act. The 301 is more durable and could last longer.
So in terms of 301 being more durable and lasting longer, would this be more broad-based, looking across trade of goods and services with Canada more broadly, or would it be more targeted to certain industries?
No, it would be targeted across tariffs on Canadian products. And, again, we'll have to see. We know the amount. I think it's about $2 billion of retroactive digital taxes, which seem patently unfair. We had been talking to the administration in Ottawa about this, and they decided to go ahead with it.
Spoken to the president.
Yes, they decided to go ahead with it. And this is going to be catastrophic, not just in terms of the trade deals that aren't going to happen, but as I said, in terms of the potential censorship. So this concerns me. It's another plank in the Liberal government's attempt to silence us, to ensure that we don't have access to new media, to independent media. That's what this is all about. And it should be as plain to anybody what is going on here. And clearly the United States is not happy about this. Here's some more comment about this.
Okay, folks, we've got some breaking news to tell you about right now. And forgive me for looking down. I'm just looking at my monitor. This is coming from the U.S. President Donald Trump. Here's what I'm getting on the wires. We are hereby terminating all discussions on trade with Canada effective immediately. He has posted this on his Truth Social form. We've got it there. We've got the full document there. He is saying we will let Canada know tariff they will be paying to do business with the U.S. within next 7-day period. So the crux of this is that the president is accusing Canada of being a very difficult country to trade with, including charging American farmers as much as 400% tariffs for years on dairy products, and has announced putting digital services tax on our American technology companies, which, according to the president, is a direct and blatant attack on our country. He says there they're obviously copying the European Union, which has done the same thing and is currently under discussion with us also. Based on this egregious tax, says the president, we are hereby terminating all discussions on trade with Canada effective immediately. And again, he'll let us know about how he wants to move forward with trade in the next 7-day period. This is coming. Huge breaking news from the U.S. directly from the president, just at a moment where the House of Commons is not sitting down anymore, and Prime Minister Carney was suggesting to the Canadian public that things are normalizing and getting on the right track in terms of trade with the United States. This is going to be a huge story for us today. Stay tuned to CBC News Network. We're going to bring you all the information and analysis we can. We'll be back in just
So even CBC's taking this seriously. And I see that Councillor Lisa Robinson has arrived, and we will be showing you a sneak preview of what we're going to be doing next week. But let's get to Lisa, who is now here. Lisa, welcome.
Hi.
And I know you're good. I know you're in the fair city of Ottawa today because you'll be joining me on Jason Levine's show, which I did not neglect to mention at the beginning of the program here. I'm looking forward to seeing you again and being on the show with Jason. Always an informative guy.
Yeah, that's awesome. I got caught in the rain, and I'm just sitting here at a restaurant right now trying to dry out, so forgive me.
That's all right. Well, I wanted to... We've been trying to do this for the past week or so, but the two biggest issues facing you right now in terms of your job as a councillor in Pickering and your ongoing battle with the city and the mayor, they've again suspended your pay. And how many times has this been? And then when you respond to that, we'll talk about the legal bill that the court has foisted upon you. So why have they suspended you again? Why have they suspended your pay?
Well, again, this is going to be the 5th time that they have now suspended my pay, bringing a total of 1 year that I have not been paid for doing my job, just because, they want to censor me. The things that they're censoring me on right now and I got to tell you first, the majority, over 90% of the sanctions have come from complaints that have been put in by the CAO, so our Chief Administrator Officer here at the City of Pickering, or the mayor. Okay, so all the complaints are coming from them. It's not like, it's constituents that are complaining and, saying that I'm doing things that are wrong. But this last set of complaints and sanctions that they have done is because I've been open and honest. I was open and honest about how much money we're actually spending on consultants being in government, which is completely out of control. It was also because I was speaking at a town hall meeting about how you can skew surveys. And I mean, this is well known around the globe, how you can skew surveys. Like, the questions will lead you to a predetermined answer that they want to achieve. And I mentioned that, so they're taking away pay for that. They're also taking away pay because I told them about our gifts and benefits policy. Now, underneath our gifts and benefits policy at the City of Pickering is that we as councillors and as staff, we are allowed to accept gifts, like, basically bribes. I tried to bring a motion forward saying, like, hey, let's not accept any of these anymore. And of course, no other councillor would second that motion to stop being able to receive these kinds of gifts and benefits. But I had spoken about within our policy that we have to make a statement of declaration for anything that we get from, I'm just going to pick on developers for a moment, that they give us as a gift or benefit. If it's going to go to myself or to my spouse or to my child or to my parent, and then that's it. But the loophole is, and I spoke about this, and this is why I'm losing my pay, is because they don't want you to know this. If a developer was to give me 10 tickets, so let's say to a basketball game, and I decide, okay, you know what? I'm going to take my spouse, my child, and myself. I'm only going to use 3 of those 7 tickets. Well, that's all that I have to declare. Those other 7 tickets, I can hand out to anybody else that I want to, whether, like, I want to give it to them as gifts or, like, as like a light bribe or whatever it is. But because I mentioned that loophole, again, they're taking money away from me, my salary, from, like, being able to pay my mortgage and put food on the table for my child. And then the last thing that they wanted to take my pay away for was because at my town hall meeting, I had put out a sign-in sheet. Now, this sign-in sheet, they're saying that I am breaking MFIPA rules, the privacy, right? And
Yeah.
which is not true, because everywhere on that sign-in sheet, not only do I have a disclaimer at the top of it, but I only collected people's first names and their initials to know who was in my town hall for safety reasons, obviously, right? Somebody walks in, you know, you want to know what their name is. So I don't even know if they're right names, if they're fake names, but first names and initials. I didn't collect any other personal information. So there's no phone number, there's no email address, there's no address, there's nothing like that, which means I am not breaking MFIPA rules. But because they are targeting me and they just want to sanction me, they that's what they sanction me on. And here's the kicker of all of this, is that back on when the integrity commissioner sends me, like, you know, their findings of a report, I have the chance to refute that. So I sent 2 emails on January the 6th, giving them all the evidence of, like, you know, hey, this is how much money we're spending on consultants. Like, you know, when you look at our different capital budgets and whatnot, and these are the rules around MFIPA. And, you know, this is true about the statement of disclosure, because I did it myself. You know, 4 of us went to a game and I put in all 4 tickets. I got in trouble because I was over the allocated amount, and they allowed me to remove 2 of those tickets because there was a friend and my friend's child that went with us. So I'm the living proof that this happens. And I had put in all of that evidence in on January the 6th. Well, the integrity commissioners said that they didn't get it. So when they gave us the announcement last Thursday that this would be going on the agenda for Monday that just passed, I said, hey, look, you know what? I've sent you 2 emails with all of this evidence. They said they didn't see the emails, and they decided they were going to pursue with it anyways. And I kept on them. I talked to the city clerk, the city solicitor, to the mayor, to all of the other councillors, and I said, hey, how could you guys possibly vote to take away my pay for 3 years, knowing that they made a mistake, that the evidence is there, but they're refusing to look at it? And then the next thing you know, the integrity commissioner said, oh, well, we found 1 of those emails. And of course, you know what? I CC myself on everything. I blind CC myself and other people. So, I mean, they did get it. I've got the proof that they got it. And they decided to go ahead with it anyways and take away my 3 months' pay. So it just shows it's not about what that I'm doing. It's because what I'm saying, and they don't like it, and they're just trying to punish me and destroy me to make me step down from being a city councillor. It's disgusting.
Yes. And a court has also ordered you to pay $30,000 in legal fees to the city. What was the justification for that ruling?
Right. Well, because the first time that they sanctioned me, the first 2 times they sanctioned me, I decided to go for a judicial review. But the findings for the judicial review just came back on May the 30th. So it took over 8.5 months for the judicial review to come back. The judges did not even look at the evidence. So again, for the very first times that they were sanctioning me, I have the proof that what they said in the complaints, which had come from my own fellow councillors, I had all of the evidence showing that I did not do what they said. Like, for example, for that one there, I believe it was, I was trying to bring 3 draft motions forward. One, that we should only be flying governmental flags on governmental buildings. The second one was that every man, woman, boy, and girl should have the right to use a biological bathroom of their choice, or to use a universal change room bathroom that would be inclusive of all genders and our families. And then the third one is that I wanted to put an age restriction on all Pride events and on drag queen story times. And of course, they said that I wanted the city not to participate in any kind of events, and they said that I wanted to remove the universal change room. And they didn't say that, you know, I wanted to remove all flags. They just said that I was targeting the Pride flag, right? So those were the lies that they did. So with the judicial review, the judges did not look at the evidence. They looked at the procedure. So if the integrity commissioner said, oh, well, you know, we were right in our right to take away her pay, because under the municipal act that you can, they just went along with that, and they didn't even look at the evidence. So yes, I owe the City of Pickering $30,000 on top of, you know, now a lost 12 months of salary. So really, we're looking at over $100,000 that I'm in the hole at this moment. But on Friday, I actually put in my appeal for the judgment, because they did not look at the evidence, which is what they should have done in the very first
No, clearly they're not considering evidence. This is all politics. This is completely politically motivated. And it's interesting, there was a Ontario school board councillor just recently was essentially knowledge. Sorry. There we go. We're back. That precedes every school board meeting. No indication of what if she's ever going to be allowed back into the school board as a councillor, just that she's no longer welcome until further notice. This is what you have been putting up with since you were first elected, because you've dared to speak truth to power. I'm going to tell people who are watching this show, and I know you've got a GoFundMe site. The information will be in the description, as it has been for the last few days in this show. But I'm encouraging people to phone, email, write, send a telegram to the mayor of Pickering and tell him you don't like this. This is unjust. And I have to say it, Lisa, you are a single mom. You're not a wealthy person. It's not like being a councillor is just an ad hoc thing you do on the side.
No.
And they're not paying you for the good work you've done. And this is so unjust. People, get on the phone, get on your computers, and tell the mayor that you're not very happy about this. And this is completely unjust.
Well, exactly. And can you tell me where else in Canada can somebody work a whole year and not get paid? Like, how is that legal? This is the question is how is that legal? I mean, I understand that in the Municipal Act, if a councillor does anything egregious, I'm talking egregious, then they're allowed to sanction their pay for up to 90 days. So you're 3 months. What did I do that you just heard me speak about is egregious? Nothing. I'm telling the people the truth of what's happening behind closed doors in politics. I'm bringing forward notices of motions that the people have asked me to bring forward. And I mean, really, honestly, when in our lifetimes have you ever had to fight that, I'd be able to use, well, not me, but let's say, yeah, me. I would be able to use a bathroom that only has females in it. Like, I don't understand what's happening here. I mean, at City Hall, do you think we're sharing bathrooms in City Hall? I can tell you we're definitely not. So why is it that we're making other people do it, right? It's one of those, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But no, with City Halls, it's rules for thee, but not for me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we are going to continue to support you on this channel, on this station, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again this afternoon, Lisa. And we will put your GoFundMe information, and I'm encouraging people to help you out in whatever way they can, and including to agitate against this city council in Pickering that is insisting upon punishing you for speaking truth. And thanks for joining me today, Lisa, and we'll see you later.
Thank you so much. We'll see you guys later. Have a good day.
Bye for now. That was Pickering Councillor Lisa Robinson, who has been a real voice for truth and free speech on that council. And what does she get for it? Her pay suspended for a year in total. Outrageous. I'm going to give you a sneak peek right now what we're going to be up to next week. And I'm really looking forward to this. This is Katarina Szulc, I think is how the name is pronounced. But she is going to be joining me next week. I'm just arranging for the time in the day right now. But here's a little sneak peek of what she is going to be talking about. This is incredible, explosive.
Moved to Canada.
I think the majority has moved to Canada.
All moved to Canada.
I think the majority has moved to Canada.
The majority of it's moved to Canada.
Yes. I am 99% sure about that, because you can never be 100% sure. I asked them, what do you think about Trump calling you and the people you work with and your networks terrorists? And how is this going to impact you? And it's so funny because I had anticipated this reaction, but I didn't think that actually doing. We don't care. We're just going to wait 4 years.
Should note, because it's not clear from the beginning of this clip, she's talking about the Mexican cartels here. And this is what we're going to be talking about next week.
It's not that deep.
Wow. Interesting. So what do you think? What is the plan then? Are they gonna stop?
That's kind of what's been happening
across the border.
I mean, fentanyl numbers have been going down, but I don't think that's the plan. The plan is to move operations, and I've been reporting on this extensively. It's all happening in Canada now. No one else is clocking it, and it's so obvious. It started during Trump's first administration when he first started cracking down on the southern border. Cartels knew they could go into Canada and they didn't need a visa like they needed to get into the U.S. It was just a regular tourist visa. They didn't need to apply for anything or pay for anything. They could just go get their tourist, like have a regular tourist visa the way I come to the United States, set up shop, negotiate and network with pre-existing organized crime groups in Canada, whether that be the Hells Angels, a big one, or Brothers Keepers or Red Scorpion or the United Nations gang, and say, hey, look, you guys have incredible access, okay, over 5,000 miles of practically unprotected border into the United States. We can produce this product here and traffic it. Not to mention, a lot of these pre-existing gangs have a large Asian populations. And what do we have in Vancouver? The Port of Vancouver. And where are the fentanyl precursors coming in? From China. So you move these precursors, the movement is no longer coming into Mexico. It's coming into Canada. You set up shop, you increase profit, you tell all these guys that are already there, hey, look, if you let us, Sinaloa or Jalisco, in to work with you guys, we're going to quadruple profits.
So wait, you're saying that no more, are you saying in addition to Mexico produce fentanyl, or it's all moved to Canada?
I think the majority is moved to Canada.
The majority of it's moved to Canada?
Yes. I am 99% sure about that, because you can never be 100% sure, but I am so sure about that. I said, well, why isn't there a crackdown then? Why aren't they stopping it? And why is the Canadian government only implementing a fentanyl czar when Trump is telling them to crack down, not when thousands of people are dying on a monthly basis from fentanyl use? And he explicitly tells me it's because they just don't have the means to do it. They haven't even been able to crack down on local gangland. How are they now supposed to focus on transnational crime organizations? The head of RCMP was asked just recently, how many organized crime groups, individual organized crime groups, do you think are operating in Canada right now? And he responds, it's on video.
How many organized crime groups are involved?
Over 4,000 organized crime groups in Canada, as assessed by the Criminal Intelligence Service of Canada.
4,000 individual organized crime groups, all with their own distinct leadership and membership?
That's correct.
I don't have a number off the top of my head. I think 4,000. And so the question is clarified. There are 4,000 organized crime groups operating in Canada with their own individual leadership and networks. And the head of the RCMP said, yes, I would say so, around 4,000.
They're putting Pegasus on people's phones?
Oh, Mexico, and particularly Mexican journalists, it's like you are the number one victim of having Pegasus on your phone. They got Pegasus from Israel. It doesn't take anything at all. It's literally, I get a message on WhatsApp. If I just press on that contact that sent me the message, Pegasus is now in my phone, and they have access to everything, all of the data, even the metadata that's in my phone, and can track me, can listen in to me, everything. Just recently, actually, the Mexican president's phone was hacked. It was a phone that she said she never used. But if you're able to hack the president's phone, anyone is at risk.
Who are they deploying all this stuff against? Is it cartel on cartel for the most part?
It's anyone that threatens their operations. Politicians, law enforcement, sometimes people who are working for them. Stay Frosty put some Pegasus on his phone.
So that was Katarina Szulc on the Sean Ryan Show. She will be on our show next week. Now, here's a video that I think will tie this all together. Because what is going on here? We've got a fentanyl crisis. Whoops, the F crisis, right? But this is all about Mark Carney's book, The Hinge. He wants to create a crisis. And people have been saying, where's your book, Mark Carney? Where's your latest book? It might be released on July 1st. And Mark Carney is creating a backdrop for all of this. Mark Carney is creating the crisis backdrop to sell his book.
Might say even a hinge moment of history.
To this hinge moment.
handle the truth.
Resolve to resist.
So you all remember when former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau appointed a fentanyl czar, who was the deputy superintendent of the RCMP and was essentially a top-level advisor to Justin Trudeau. That was supposed to be in response to Donald Trump's threat to impose across-the-board tariffs. We haven't heard from this guy since he was appointed. And as we just heard from this investigative journalist, the F supply continues to come in at the Vancouver ports unmolested by customs, by border patrol, by the police. And it's being manufactured, it's being turned into the F drug in British Columbia largely. Mark Carney has done nothing about this crisis because he doesn't want to upset the Chinese. You know, China is his master. So what is he going to do? Well, create another crisis with the digital services tax, which we talked about at the beginning of the show, which comes in on Monday. And let's watch Mark Carney's attitude again, because this is fascinating. It's like he's saying, "Aye, bring it on. This is going to help me sell books."
I didn't speak to the president.
What do you? Any reaction to the news they put on Truth Social today?
We'll continue to conduct these complex negotiations in the best interest of Canadians. It's a negotiation. Ça va continuer.
Will you back down?
So he's not worried. Hey, the trade talks are going to fall. So perhaps we are going to get hit with huge tariffs. That's going to be decimating to the economy, even put it into a tailspin even worse than it already is right now. But Mark Carney's not worried, because with Mark Carney, it's always about grifting, being a grifter, how he can use government and politics to enhance his wealth, how he can use his political positions to make more money in the private sector. It's corporate cronyism. In this case, I think it's bald excess of power, bald abuse of power. That's what's going on here. Because Mark Carney wants to sell his book, The Hinge. So even the cabinet has been told, hey, when you're making a speech, make sure you get that word, the hinge or unhinged, into the speech. Make sure you reference it, because it's about my book. It's about selling copies of my book. So please don't forget to say that. And they're not. So that's what this is about. And why do you think Parliament went home for the summer? Because it will take, and I'm basing this on the best probable analysis that I did this morning. It will take an act of Parliament to stop the digital services tax, because it was an act of Parliament that brought it in. So I don't think an order in council would be sufficient. And I think they're going to have to recall Parliament to do it. Will they do that? I doubt it very much, even though it would be in the best interest, not just in terms of U.S. Canadian relations, but in terms of our free speech in this country and our continued exposure to the extremist censorship policies of this Liberal government. I'm saying bring them back. Bring them back, make them do some work. We sent them home for 3 months after 3 weeks of fun in the House of Commons, with very little opposition, by the way. Very little opposition to Bill C-2, which is a horrendous surveillance bill, and no opposition at all to Bill C-5, which is the corporate cronyism bill that's going to allow Mark Carney to rule the economic sphere in this country without any sort of oversight. It gives the government complete control over these projects, and Mark Carney complete control. No opposition to that. And there should have been. So recall Parliament. Let's get something done constructive for the Canadian people for a change. How about that? I think that would be a novel idea. Let's have a look at the merchandise. And this one just arrived. Another one, and we've got more stickers. We will be giving away the stickers as well this afternoon. But here's another one. I'm in nobody's pocket. You saw the t-shirt yesterday. Here is the mug. We're very proud of our merchandise here. So we'll see you this afternoon, I hope, at the Jason Levin show, the Days Inn at Wyndham on Rideau Street in Ottawa, downtown Ottawa. Thank you for watching today. It's been a pleasure. This has been David Krayden broadcasting to you live from our nation's capital in Ottawa. God bless this country and Godspeed to all of you. Thanks for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow at the same time. And I'll see you this afternoon on the Jason Levin Show.